The Haunting of Ravenwood Asylum Ghost, real horror story based on true events. The story starts at its highest point. A shaking camera lies on the cracked floor of the abandoned asylum. A young woman screams for help. Footsteps run across the hallway. The screen flickers as a small shadow moves past the lens. A child's laugh echoes close enough that the microphone distorts. Then Sarah's voice whispers clearly. "Tell them what happened. Do not let them hide it." The camera falls again. A cold breath fogs the lens. The light cuts out. And the footage stops. Hours later, police arrive and find only one thing. The camera. Still recording. Still warm. And the fourth wing sealed from the inside. The report ends there. But the real story begins weeks before. Ravenwood Asylum had been closed for 20 years. People in the area said the place was cursed. They said the halls still carried the voices of patients who never found peace. But 3 young investigators did not believe in such things. Sarah, Marcus, and Ben worked for a small Ohio television station. They were filming a short documentary about abandoned buildings. Nothing serious. Nothing dangerous. Marcus joked about ghosts. Ben said the place looked more like a noisy old warehouse than a haunted hospital. But Sarah did not laugh. She had read stories about Ravenwood. She knew the fourth wing had been sealed with concrete. She knew that one patient's name kept coming up. Amelia Crow. They arrived just after sunset. The air was cold and smelled of wet concrete. Their flashlight beams cut across empty hallways filled with peeling paint and rusted doors. Every sound echoed loudly. Their footsteps. Their breathing. And something else that none of them wanted to mention. A faint tapping far down the hallway. Ben set up his main camera on a tripod. Everything they filmed that night came from this small device. It recorded the truth without fear or emotion. They moved deeper into the asylum. A metal door slammed somewhere above them even though no windows were open. Marcus laughed nervously. Must be the wind. But Sarah whispered that no wind could reach the upper floors. When they finally reached the fourth wing, the concrete wall stood cracked with age. Sarah ran her hand over the cold surface. "This is it," she said. "The sealed wing. The one they tried to hide." They found a few loose bricks and slowly pulled them free. The opening was small, just wide enough for them to crawl through. The air inside was colder. Heavy. Almost frozen. Inside they discovered files scattered everywhere. Burned pages. Torn pages. And one name repeated in almost every record. Amelia Crow. A 9-year-old girl who claimed she was never alone. Sarah lifted one file and began to read. But before she could finish, a soft laugh echoed behind them. A child's laugh. Marcus froze. Ben turned the camera toward the hallway. And for one quick second, the lens captured a small shadow running behind the doorway. The temperature dropped. Their breath turned white. Sarah's light flickered and revealed fresh handprints on the walls. Small. Like a child's. Ben whispered that they needed to leave. But when they turned around, the hole they crawled through was gone. The wall was solid again. And the camera kept recording. The footage recovered from the camera becomes unstable at this point. The audio cracks. The image bends. But the police transcript describes what happened next. Marcus tried to break down the wall first. He punched it, kicked it, even used a rusted metal bar. But the concrete did not move. It was as if the opening had never existed. As if the asylum itself had closed around them. Sarah whispered Amelia's name. Not calling for her, but warning. Ben lifted his camera, scanning the hall. He said the temperature felt wrong. Not cold like winter. Cold like standing inside a freezer. Cold like the air was being pulled out of the room. Then the lights flickered again. 3 times. On the third flicker, the hallway behind them was no longer empty. Someone stood at the far end. Too small to be an adult. Too still to be alive. Ben whispered. "Sarah, don't move." The figure turned slowly. A child's silhouette. Thin. Hair hanging over her face. One hand pressed to the wall. the other holding something small and round. Marcus whispered, "That's not real. It cannot be real." But Sarah shook her head. She stepped forward. "Amelia?" The small figure lifted her head. But before the camera could catch the face, a sudden burst of static wiped the frame. When the picture returned, the hallway was empty. Sarah backed up until her shoulders hit the wall. "She said she wasn't alone," she whispered. "It wasn't an illness. She meant someone was with her." The files scattered on the ground began to move. Slowly at first. Then violently, as if blown by a wind that none of them could feel. Pages lifted one by one and slammed against the far wall, creating a single pile. Ben kept filming through shaking hands. Marcus said, "We need to run." But the fourth wing stretched longer now. The hallway seemed to change shape. The doors moved. The shadows bent. The building itself felt alive. Breathing. Watching. Then the camera caught something impossible. Faces. Quick, flashing frames of faces that none of them recognized. Not human faces. Not normal. Distorted eyes. Wide mouths. As if the camera could see things their eyes could not. Ben shouted and hit the side of the camera, but the faces kept appearing between frames. Sarah grabbed his arm. "It's the asylum," she said. "It's showing us what happened here." A loud bang echoed down the hall. They all spun around. A metal door behind them slammed open even though no one touched it. Something ran past the opening, fast. Too fast. The sound of tiny footsteps pounded on the floor. Marcus screamed, "Where is she?" But it wasn't a child running. The steps were uneven, like someone dragging something heavy behind them. The sound grew louder. Closer. Ben turned the camera toward the noise. The screen flickered. The hall darkened. And for a moment only the camera could see the shape crawling out of the doorway. Long arms, twisted legs, a face hidden behind hair. Sarah yelled, "Run!" They sprinted down the hall, every step echoing like thunder. The lights overhead popped and burst, raining sparks. The air filled with whispers. Children's voices. Adults crying. Words none of them could understand. They ran until they reached the main hall of the wing. The door to the outside was wide open. A way out. Salvation. Ben pushed Sarah forward. "Go! Go!" But before they could reach the exit, the door slammed shut so hard the sound cracked through the building. Another voice whispered behind them. Something low. Something not a child. Ben slowly turned the camera toward the sound. The frame shook. The shadows moved. Then the screen glitched so violently the image tore apart. And the last clear sound captured was Sarah yelling, "Help us! Someone help us!" The final chapter of the recovered document begins with the clearest audio in the entire recording. It is Sarah's whisper. Soft. Terrified. "He doesn't want us to leave." Her voice echoed through the fourth wing as the camera steadied again. Ben must have propped it against a fallen cabinet because it now faced the long corridor ahead. Marcus pounded on the exit door behind them, shouting for help, but not a single sound came from outside. The police later confirmed something strange. No exterior door in Ravenwood showed signs of being touched that night. From the outside, everything looked untouched and silent. Inside the footage, the temperature dropped even more. Frost formed on the camera lens. Their breath looked like smoke. Sarah clung to Ben's arm as the whispers grew clearer. Children. Nurses. Patients. Too many voices at once. Then everything went quiet. Completely silent. Even Marcus stopped screaming. The camera caught him turning slowly toward the hallway. His face drained of color. His eyes widened. Something was standing in front of him. Not Amelia. Something else. Something much taller. Only the lower half of the figure appeared on camera, pale legs, bare feet, toes dragging along the floor as if the body had been lifted. The toes left trails in the dust. Not footprints. Drag marks. Marcus tried to speak, but no sound came out. Sarah reached for him, but the lights suddenly went out. The hallway went pitch black. The camera switched to night mode on its own, casting everything in a green glow. That's when they saw her. Amelia Crow. Standing inches from the camera. Her face was blurry, as if the lens refused to focus on her. Her head tilted slightly. Her arms hung loose, too loose for a child. Behind her, the tall figure hovered. Not touching the floor. Not human. Sarah screamed and grabbed Ben. They ran toward the only place left, deeper into the asylum. The camera fell on its side, still filming, as they disappeared down the hallway. Sounds filled the air. Running. Crying. Something crawling. Something knocking on the walls. The old building groaned like it was waking up from a long sleep. A minute later the camera was lifted. Not by Ben. Not by Sarah. Someone else. A small hand covered in dust wrapped around the lens. Amelia's hand. She pulled the camera close to her face. Her voice came out clear, almost calm. "It wasn't us," she whispered. "We didn't do it. He did." The camera jerked sharply, pointed toward the far hall. For 1 second, one frozen frame, the tall figure stood fully visible. A gaunt body. Hollow eyes. Limbs that bent the wrong way. Its shadow stretched all the way up the wall. Then the screen filled with static. When the video came back, the camera was on the floor again. Only Ben's voice could be heard, shouting Sarah's name over and over. Heavy footsteps followed. Not his. Not human. The last 30 seconds of footage were the worst. The camera showed the hallway shaking as if something large moved through it. Sarah screamed once. Then silence. The microphone picked up a long breath near the lens, almost like someone leaning close. A whisper followed. She wanted her story told. The camera shut off at exactly 2:47 a.m. 2 days later, police found the van outside the asylum. Doors open. Equipment scattered. No sign of Sarah, Marcus, or Ben. Only the camera. Still in perfect condition. Ravenwood Asylum was permanently sealed again. No one has entered the fourth wing since. And Amelia's file was removed from all state archives without explanation. Today, people say that if you stand near the old building at night, you can still hear a child laughing somewhere deep inside. Some say it is Amelia. Others say it is the thing that lived in the fourth wing long before she arrived.